Well, welcome to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I am your host and resource for self-care and resources and mindfulness. Something like that, you get the point. It's one of those days. We have with us today our illustrious guest, Carolyn Wilman, and she is a jack of all trades, from Idea Majesty, contest queen, to a metaphysical author. She transforms companies with her knack for sweepstakes marketing and empowers individuals with her techniques for winning contests. And with her winning mindset mantra and a collection of republished mindset books, she guides others to believe in their victorious potential. Carolyn, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, I love sharing all things winning.
So I have to ask you, what sparked your interest in entering sweepstakes, and how did this, evolve into a full-blown hobby for you?
Well, I've always loved winning. I remember even entering little giveaways when I was a kid, and then, I'm dating myself here, standing in the kitchen with the rotary dial phone, calling into the local radio station as a teenager, winning tickets to whatever concert was going on. And it wasn't super frequent, but I knew you could win. I knew it was a possibility. And even in 1991, I won a trip to the Bahamas with my mom. That was something else.
Yeah, I love.
So I knew it was a possibility. Fast forward to the dot-com bubble bursting in 2001, and I read an article in Reader's Digest about a couple who entered sweepstakes as a hobby, and it really enhanced their lifestyle. And I thought, what a good idea. I don't have to work. I'll just win stuff. It's just I think we'd all like to be able to do that. You could not earn your living winning. I'm just going to tell you right now. But it is super fun. It can enhance your life. It can enhance your budget. You could win things that you wouldn't normally buy. It's so much fun. And so I really love it for that. So I started entering, and because I had been a marketer, I graduated with a business marketing major. And then I worked in every aspect of marketing up until then. And so I had a marketer's perspective, because sweepstakes is a form of marketing. And that's how I approached the hobby, because I had this perspective. And I set up my own little system because there was no resources out there at the time. And I made every mistake under the sun. That's why I'm a good teacher. I'm going to tell you what not to do. And I still make those mistakes. I have a whole series on TikTok called Silly Sweepstakes Mistakes. Something that I did, and I'm like, I know better. I know better than to do this. And I still did it.
And you're open about it too, because I even read about it in your book, your How to Win Cash, Cars, Trips, and More, and stuff. So, and that, I think that's very helpful. And I know you said you were dating yourself, but I remember when I was a kid, we used to watch the Cosby Show at night, and they had a contest during that where you ran a contest to show RC Cola, which I'm not even sure if it's even around still. But you take a picture, and my parents actually won that and won a trip to Puerto Vallarta.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
So that's my earliest memory of, other than the occasional scratch lottery tickets, which, is there. But, a lot of people, you always say, oh, well, there's millions out there. And you have to play to pay, but pay to play or to even win, or sometimes you don't. I think you even have sweepstakes stuff that don't necessarily cost you, but
most sweepstakes shouldn't cost you anything. Your parents probably paid for that one because you had to mail it in. So it's the cost of the envelope and the stamp and whatnot, but you're not really paying to enter, if you know what I mean.
Right.
There's no entry fee.
No, that's just more like the lottery ticket type things, which sometimes a lot of people put into that same boat with sweepstakes. But I think a lot of us are probably still familiar with the, the PCH, the ones they show you in the advertisement where they come hand you a check. Clearinghouse.
Okay. Publishers Clearinghouse Sweepstakes has the worst odds of winning. And I thought it was 1.2 billion, but their current one is like 7.4 billion to 1. It is terrible. Wow. Now you can win in their $5 one, but if you want the grand prize, it's terrible. And the reason the odds are so terrible is because a long time ago they were taken to court because people perceived that they had to make a purchase to enter, and legally you don't. And so they had to change it so it was really obvious that you didn't have to buy anything to enter. So they made their odds so dismal. I recommend people don't enter that one. There's literally so many sweepstakes going on at any given time. You physically can't enter them all. And most people only spend an hour or two a day entering as a hobby. And most people do that while they're watching TV in the evening. Like a couple Christmases ago, George bought me a little laptop. It looks like a TV tray, but it's got the bar for the computer and a space for the mouse. And okay. I don't have a computer that heats up. I have a little Chromebook, but it even has a fan that it can cool your computer down. I mean, I love this thing. It's fantastic. And I'll sit there and we'll watch a movie and I'm just entering away. And we used to bother him when we first started dating until I started winning. And when I won some, we went out I won tickets to concerts and things, and that was fun. But then I won a trip for four of us. We took the kids, one of mine and one of his, and off we went to Florida for a week. And it was so much fun. And after that, he's like, "Hey, are you entering that? You should make sure you're getting."
So you started turning him into a believer.
Yeah. And I enter for him because he would never do it. But he knows that if somebody phones and says, "Hey, you won this," he's like, "Oh, great." He knows. He remembers. He'll say, "Oh, that's exciting." He'll just agree with them. "Yes, I remember entering."
And you've been doing this for a long time. And I know you have a firm belief that you win more prizes than others. What drives that belief?
I think part of it is I have like an inherent, like, I want to say like a characteristics that I'm a winner. And I know I don't win every contest I enter because statistically it's impossible. Mm-hmm. But I believe I'm going to win everything that I'm entering. And as I'm entering, I'm like, "Ooh, wouldn't that be nice?" And sometimes I even think it. I was noticing that I'm getting low on perfume. And then I won perfume. And I was spritzing one of the old bottles today. I think I might have like one more day left out of that bottle and she's done. And then I have the new one to replace it.
So it's what, mindset, positive thinking, kind of meditating, or just
a little bit of everything, I think, because there's actually a book out there called The Luck Factor by Dr. Richard Wiseman. And he did a scientific study on luck, on how people who perceived themselves to be lucky and who thought positively saw all the opportunities out there. Because we have something called a reticular activator. Now, I know this is getting all scientific, but we filter so much out. It's like when you go shop for a new car and you're looking at a certain model in a certain color, and then all of a sudden you see them everywhere because your brain's open that filter. I can spot the word win at 100 paces because I've got that thought. I'm open to every winning possibility. And one of the studies in the book was they told people to walk into this diner, go find this person at the counter, sit down. They were going to be asked 3 questions, and then they were going to get up and leave. That wasn't the study. The study is that they put a $20 bill on the ground in front of the door as people walked in. Every single participant that deemed themselves to be positive and lucky saw the $20 bill. Every single participant that was negative and thought the world was against them didn't see the $20 bill. Now, the conditions were the exact same for everybody.
Okay.
But the positive people have that opening. I think the trend on TikTok is lucky girl syndrome.
Right? We always have to name things. Yeah. Yep.
It is.
Yep.
It's true, though. And Helene Hadsel, the woman who I've been writing, maintaining her legacy and republishing her books, And also Tag Powell, I've purchased the rights to his book. He was actually Helene's second publisher. Talk about a whole coincidence in how I met him. His books are all the same. It's all mindset.
Wow.
It's all mindset. So there's, there's affirmations, there's beliefs, and it's just a heck of a lot of fun. And I call it contest crack because the one time you win, like I'm surprised after winning a trip to Puerto Vallarta that your parents didn't start looking for more winning opportunities. Or did they?
I think they were, no, I think they were just kind of stuck in the rat race at the time, doing what they needed to make ends meet. And I think they always just looked at it as having, too much stuff going on and couldn't. I mean, they didn't even necessarily take a vacation until we graduated. So it was just that time. It was early 80s. Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, and that was actually, I talked to Tom Cavalli, who owns I Win Contests, and we argue a little bit on this one. I think when it was mail-in was the heyday of sweepstakes. He thinks now is the heyday of sweepstakes because how much it's changed and how open it is to everybody. So,
yeah, so maybe you can shed some light on that for everybody, because I know you're called the Contest Queen. You have your website, contestqueen.com, which has a lot of information on there too, but maybe you can shed some light on all of that for people.
So, yeah, so what I started saying before was I had seen this article and I had decided that I could win everything instead of working. So as I looked for a job, I had extra time on my hands. We didn't have any children at the time. And so I started entering sweepstakes and making all the mistakes. And then as I continued, I started to create something. And then I had a system, a daily entry system that I used, and I started winning a lot. Like I remember my husband saying, he kind of poo-pooed it. And then bigger prizes started to show up. And then it was like, hey, are you entering this? It's amazing how people turn around when you start winning the bigger prizes. And meanwhile, I'm still looking for work. And then I had 3 things converge. Like I ended up pregnant and the hobby took off. And I had a contract that finished all at the same time. So I became a stay-at-home mom for a little while. And then when I was ready to go back to work, by then I'd been entering sweepstakes for almost 3 years. I had a real hobby going. And I had a winning streak. And while I'm trying to decide, like, what do I want to do for work? Where do I want to go get a contract? Do I want to work full-time, part-time? What am I doing? Everyone kept saying to me, you should write a book on, how to win giveaways. And I was thinking, this is what, is this really an option? Like, can I really go down this path for work? And I was going to a girlfriend's house to have a coffee and discuss it. And I passed a church, and on the service announcement board, it said, you can't lose helping others win. And I thought, oh, that's the sign I've been looking for. And I instantly knew that I was going to write the book. And that was in 2004. Now, just a warning to people, I read a book called The 1 Minute Millionaire by Mark Victor Hansen. And one of the things that you could do is write a book in 30 days and make $1 million. And it took me 20 months, and I have yet to make my $1 million. Just saying.
Just saying. Yep.
Man, it'll happen. That just hasn't happened yet. Now, that first book, I started writing it in 2004. So it was 20 years ago, and it was published. I had one edition in 2006 and one edition in 2008. And so I'm still waiting, Mark.
Yep. But yeah, so you, like you said, this
to let people know. But I didn't stop. That was the other thing I want to tell people. If you have a goal, I read this book, it says, write a book in 30 days. It did not happen. But I never stopped, and it was published. And the gap between books is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. The more I do it, the better I get, like anything in life, right? And then also I'm doing other editions. So I can be writing one book while I'm also recording the Audible while I'm having one translated. So that's like 3 books, right? At least I consider it 3 books.
Sure.
Right? Even though one is written, one is spoken, one is in this case going to be Spanish.
You always have a lot of things going on. It is amazing. You were saying how sweepstakes has really kind of changed. And I think a lot of that has to do with technology and online. Yes. So, because I mean, I know your book mentions radio stations, and I remember those days, but a lot of us have like Sirius radio because we don't want to listen.
Oh my God, I have alarms. I have to tell you. So here's how it's changed. This is the other reason I'm finishing another edition. So first, You Can't Win If You Don't Enter came out in 2008. And then How to Win Cash, Cars, Trips, and More came out in 2016. And another 8 years later, we have Prizes Everywhere coming out this year. And the reason I have to keep updating it, some of the core principles of winning are the same, like always set up an email address just for entering sweepstakes. That hasn't changed. Use a sweepstakes aggregate or a sweepstakes site to find legitimate sweepstakes easily. That hasn't changed. Now, the resources for those have changed because some sweepstakes sites have closed. Some new ones have opened. So where you are going to find those sweepstakes has changed in the last, 20 years, for example. And also the types of sweepstakes have changed. There was no Facebook when I started. There was no Twitter, now X, when I started. There was no Instagram. There was no TikTok. And even from the last book to this book, how you enter on those 3, 4 or 5 platforms has changed. I mean, there was at one point, Pinterest was huge. I haven't seen a giveaway on Pinterest in probably 7 years.
So and I didn't even know they had giveaways.
So. Yeah, they had them for a hot minute, and now they're gone. Oops, I nearly knocked over my cup.
So can you share with us a little bit about how did you even start finding all of these? Or you just started researching? I mean, because like you said, once you look for it, they start popping up. But how do you know where to start looking for them? And
well, that was the struggle I had at first.
Starting this.
That was the struggle I had at first, because when I was entering, it was harder to find them. And then I joined something that doesn't exist anymore either, a Yahoo group. I know, right?
Yeah.
It was Yahoo groups, kind of like Facebook groups, but on Yahoo.
Okay.
A little bit similar to a Reddit thread. They had different threads in the group. And we would talk about different giveaways, and we would share tips or code words. If like a radio station had a code word, or a television station, we would share, things like that. Or if somebody was looking for a product because they had a code in it. Oh, I'm in this province. I've saw it somewhere. Or I'm in this state. It's over here. I found it in this grocery store. That we'd all help each other win. And the automatic thought is that's not going to work. If I help other people, it makes it harder for me to win. On the surface, yes, but all boats rise with the tide. And it's good karma. There's a book called The 7 Laws of Success. And one of them is the law of giving. It was written by Deepak Chopra. And it's counterintuitive, but the more you give, the more you get back. And all boats rise with the tide. When companies see that their sweepstakes are successful, they're going to run more giveaways. And the industry has only grown. And then as the social media platforms have evolved, it's become easier. Now, my personal Instagram feed is like 95% sweepstakes, because I'm only entering giveaways not on my business one, on my personal Instagram feed.
Right.
I'm only getting shown giveaways. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess, or a cyclical thing. So it helps. And then I use sweepstakes aggregate that lists all the giveaways. So they're all in one place. It makes it really easy for me to go every day and find new giveaways to enter without having to search the entire internet.
And that definitely helps that you have a whole system set up because, and yeah, I haven't got to that part yet, but that's important too, like you said, to have a separate email because we all know how our emails get flooded and everything gets lost. But I also know one of your biggest tips in your book is to always read the rules of the giveaway. And you have at least one or two funny stories about what happens when you don't.
The funniest one, and thankfully there's no documented proof of this because I actually this was so long ago, our phones didn't have cameras, and I took a camera with me only to realize I hadn't charged the battery. So it was dead. We turned it on and went, I was like, okay, I guess we'll just no pictures. I was all excited. When I got there, I took a girlfriend. We had to go to the Molson Indy. I won silver grandstand passes. And my husband was a huge race fan, so it was great. But to win the grand prize, you had to sumo wrestle. 2 of the 4 winners just took their passes, never showed up. Me and this other fella showed up. He was much bigger than me. Now, he wasn't huge. He was probably like 5'10", 5'11", but I'm only 5'2", so that's a big difference. And I barely fit the sumo suit. Like, it came to here. It was July. It was like 105 degrees out. You had to lie down on the suit. Like, they put the suit face down, and then you got on your belly, and you did like a backwards crawl into it, and it was all sticky. It was so gross. And then it touched my feet, and then the helmet wouldn't fit. I had to sign a waiver basically saying if I broke my neck, my family wasn't going to sue. And this guy just launched me because I was so little in this suit. I could barely move. Thankfully, there's no footage, nothing. And funny enough, because he was also another contester, years later, when I won tickets to go see John Assaraf speak, he had also won. And, we're at the coffee station. I'm at the coffee station. And he goes, hey, do you remember me? And I'm like, no. And he goes, it's Frank from the sumo wrestling. I'm like, no,
not without the sumo suit. Not without the sumo suit.
I didn't recognize him without the sumo suit. So I got a picture with him. And he had won the VIP. So he got to have lunch and got the autograph book and everything. But that was pretty fun. And that's actually the secret part of the hobby that no one talks about is the amount adventures I have had. Like, you don't realize how many crazy adventures you can go on with this hobby. But those adventures also tie into the people that I've met. Like, I have made friends for life from this hobby. Like, people that, like, I'm not close buds with Frank, but if I saw him again, it would be totally fun. But there's actually sweepstakes conventions. Can I just say that now? Yes, there's conventions that sweepers gather once a year, and it changes cities. This year, it's in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm so excited. Last year, it was in Phoenix, Arizona. The year before that, it was in Manchester, New Hampshire. Next year, it's going to be in Little Rock, Arkansas.
There you go.
I know. I'm so excited. And there's anywhere between 400. Some of the slower years, we've only had 400 people there. And some of the busiest years, we've had like 1,000 people. Usually, how many were last year? I think we were at about 700 last year, 750. It's a good number of people. I think it's going to be closer to 1,000 being in Vegas because everybody likes Vegas.
Yep, I've been there a few times.
Yeah, we have speakers. So how a convention works is we have speakers. I'd probably be speaking. And like last year I spoke on TikTok because there's giveaways on TikTok, people. And we have different topics because you want to teach people how to win in different ways. So there's all different types of topics on the different aspects of the hobby. And then, of course, there's prize draws. Hello.
Super convention, gotta have prize draws. Yeah.
And sometimes the prizes are little, sometimes they're big. Some of the prizes are purchased out of the convention tickets. The other way you win prizes is you donate. So I always donate a bunch of prizes. Usually, lucky bags with books and all kinds of things. I'm scouring for a whole year in advance. And I found a new manifestation technique that I just blogged about. I found it. We'll talk in the second half about Helene Hatzel, but I found She did a meditation manifesting with chocolate, taking M&Ms and eating them. Like there's a whole little, I did a blog post on this. People can go to my other site, and you we'll put up the words for winning QR code there later. And then you eat the chocolate and you think about what you want. So in this case, we're talking sweepstakes. What do you want to win? And you meditate on that. And, you know, you go through a little pack of chocolate manifesting your dream. But I decided that's such a good idea. I'm going to make them like all the little manifestation box. I'm going to do it in a little box with the instructions and the chocolate and everything. And I'm going to put them in my prize packs that I'm going to give away. So there's so many fun things about this hobby that you can share with other people. And I mean, I can't even tell you the number of adventures, and then also non-sweepstakes adventures. Like I've made friends and I've just gone and visited them at their house and hung out and gone on vacation with them. Like that's not sweepstakes related at all. And it's just
no. And I know we have a lot more to cover, but we do need to take a break from our sponsors.
Yeah, we do.
Because I know you have more fun stories and tips, and we want to hear more about the books and stuff you have coming up. So
it's just so fun.
It is. It's a fun topic. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm a Dharma Master. I teach Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy. What kind of Qigong do we teach? Well, it helps you to get your mind into your body and your breath very quickly. We really start off with quite quick movements to help cater for the busy Western mind, coming into stretching out the meridians, waking up the chakra system and the danjons, coming into Jigan meditation, which helps you to really focus on the energy in and around your body, bringing you into that beautiful calm state where you can sit and meditate really easily, whereas maybe before you found it really difficult. So Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy will help you get more in touch with yourself.
Hi, I'm Bobby Aldridge with BAM Metrics. There are so many programs out there that measure your swing speed, sets, reps, your BMI, your body fat. But the one thing they're not measuring that's so essential is mobility. Mobility is the key. If you're measuring your mobility, your performance will get better and you will reduce your pain. I created BAM Metrics to make it easy for people to repeat the exercises so they could do it properly at home on their own. It's simple, it's easy to do, and from a senior to a pro athlete.
And we're back. So you mentioned a few things in there, you know, the manifesting, basically being mindful and intentional. So you're very intentional when you do stuff. I mean, you don't just go and fill out any sweepstakes either, correct?
Correct. And actually that's where it ties into the Mindful Mondays. And what else is funny is I find the older I get, the pickier I am. You know, I'll see a contest and I'll think, to attend an event or something, and I'm like, do I really want to drive downtown? You know, it's January and you know, and snowy. Do I want to go? No. It's funnier. I do get pickier, but I think it's actually better because then when I am entering, I'm entering for what I really want to win, which you should be doing anyway. But I find when a lot of people start, they get so excited. They enter for everything, and then they end up, you know, winning a bunch of things, and they're like, why did I enter that? I didn't even want that thing. Like, that was just silly. Sometimes it happens, though, you're entering for a grand prize and you win a secondary prize. That's okay. So it might not be something that you want. I mean, there's a running joke in the sweepstakes community. You're not a sweeper unless you've won at least 19 coolers.
I can see the whole wall. We just have a collection of coolers behind you.
You know, it's funny. Yeah. I guess, you know, I am the contest queen, but I only ever won 2.
Well, but you won a lot of big prizes. I mean, trips going to Europe, Florida, the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And the sumo, that wrestling, that was actually, if you won that, that was for like a private lunch with, you know, Bret the Hitman Hart. Because for those watching, if they don't know, you are in Canada, but your book covers the rules and legalities of Canada and the U.S. because you travel down to the U.S. quite a bit too for sweeps.
Well, the basics of, so here's how it breaks down. The basics of the hobby, believe it or not, there's a lot of countries that do this. The UK, it's extremely popular. They call them competitions. And actually, I have I call her my sweeping soul sister. Her name is Di Coke. She's known as Super Lucky. And she's in the UK. That's on my bucket list that I'm going to go to the UK and hang out with her. That would be amazing. She's like, yes, please. And I've even told her if she ever wins a trip to the United States, because it's closer, if, you know, she wins a trip to New York or something, let me know. I will meet her there. Which is, you know, again, an adventure, not sweepstakes related specifically, but it's akin and it's, you know, part of the fun. But it's a fantastic. So, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought.
It's a whole different community.
It's a global
kind of like
hobby.
Building here.
It's very popular in India. In Australia, they call them competitions. In the United States, it's sweepstakes. In Canada, it's contests. It's the same thing. And the principles, the core of the hobby is the same everywhere. Like I tell people, I think I mentioned this in the previous segment, but always have an email. And I will repeat it because it is so important. Always have an email address just for entering. Use a sweepstakes aggregate. And the one I didn't talk about, the one that has caused me to have an entire TikTok series called Silly Sweepstakes Mistakes that I still make. You think I would know better because they are my tips. And then I end up doing something stupid because I'm human. And then I want you to learn from my experience. So I keep telling people about the funny things that I do. Silly Sweepstakes Mistakes. I have a whole series on TikToks, but my number one tip is always read the rules, because if you don't read the rules, you don't know if you're eligible to enter. You don't know when it starts and when it finishes, how often you can enter, how many people in the house can enter. Because if it's 1 per person per household, then only you can enter and that's it, 1 entry. What if it's 1 per person per day? That means I can enter me and my boyfriend, George. I can enter both of us. And depending on the prize, sometimes I'll also enter my daughter, Lane. So it might be 3 people I'm entering to increase our odds of winning. So it depends. That's why it's very important to read the rules. And then sometimes there'll be clauses. So right now there's a lot, it's very popular for companies to do receipt-based sweepstakes. Well, there has to be a no purchase entry option. So there's one right now to win a trip to the Olympics, but you have to buy 4 participating products. You have to read the list, the rules to find out what the participating products are. And then if you choose to purchase them, because they might be on your grocery list anyway, so why not get a chance to win?
Right.
And then to increase your odds, you might want to throw in a couple of no purchase entries. You have to read. It's usually an essay, and you have to mail it somewhere, and you need to follow those to the T. Now, a little cheat, what I do sometimes is if you have to write an essay that's so many words, I used to write it out in Word to get the word count. Now I tell ChatGPT to write it out. And then they say handwrite it out. So then I just copy it and put, so it saves a lot of time because I don't have to make it up. I just.
And we're always big on time savers too. So can you actually enter sweepstakes in other countries, or is there rules to that?
Only if it's open to them. So there's, say, for example, I live in Canada, you're in the United States. There's a lot that are open to Canada and the United States. And so then I can enter and you can enter. But there's other ones like my friends. There's a lot more Super Bowl sweepstakes open to all my American friends. And I pout because on Super Bowl Sunday, there's a ton of one-day giveaways. So people are focused on entering that one day. Because again, that's another tip. The shorter the time span to enter, the higher your odds of winning. Or the more barriers to entry there are, the higher your odds of winning. So example, what if it's the Food Network and they're doing a cooking contest, submit a recipe. A lot of people might feel they're not creative enough. So there's going to be less people that enter that. So again, if you love cooking and mucking about the kitchen, your odds of winning that are better. So I encourage you to enter.
Yeah. And also, I believe you mentioned in your book, if you're entering family members, you need to tell you want to tell your family members that you have entered them so they don't just hang up.
In my case, my whole family knows. So they're not surprised at this point if they get a call or an email or a prize shows up. It's not a shock anymore, especially since I've been doing this for 23 years now. However, if you're new, please tell your family members that so they don't. And even my daughter nearly got cut out. So last year, one of the local radio stations was doing this birthday giveaway, and they spin a wheel, and if it lands on your birthday month, you can text in. If they call you back, you won $500. If they spin the wheel again and it lands on your birthday, you win $5,000. So it was her birth month, and I've been doing this since before she was born. So she thinks this is, and I think now she knows it's not normal, but most of us just don't do this. But when she was little,
it was normal for her growing up.
Showed up. So I'm yelling out, you got text in. So she texts in, and she doesn't answer her phone. And I could hear it on the counter, and it starts buzzing. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. And she looked at the number. She didn't recognize it. And then she thought, oh, wait a minute. I'm expecting a call. She wasn't going to answer it. And she answered it, and it was them. And she was so excited. She won $500. They spun it. Unfortunately, she's born at the beginning of the month, and it landed in the middle of the month. She didn't win $5,000, but it was so exciting. But yeah, even my own daughter nearly missed out $500 because she was, not cluing in right at that second when it rang. But yeah, I tell people, that's the other thing. I tell people, just answer your phone, but I don't recognize the number. It doesn't matter. If it's a bot, you can just hang up. If it's a robocall, just hang up. You can block the number after. If it's a telemarketing company, I tell them, take me off the mailing list, and then I hang up. And I'd rather do that than miss a call. And I don't actually get that many. Like my personal sweepstakes email gets a fraction of the spam my business email gets. I have no idea why.
Wow. Would almost thought it would be the opposite, but
that's the thing. People say to me, oh, you must get a lot of spam. No. Because companies, think about it. If a large company is spending thousands of dollars, some of them are tens of thousands, and some are millions. Like there was, some are insured. Like remember when Taco Bell did that thing when there's a piece of the space station or something, one of the rockets was coming down, and if it hit the X in the middle of ocean, it was going to be free tacos for everybody. And there's actually companies that insure sweepstakes. So if that piece had hit that X, it would have been insured. The insurance company would have paid out on that one to cover the cost. Sometimes it can be millions of dollars that they spend. They are not going to spam you, and they're not going to sell your data. But again, if you're not sure, that's another reason to read the rules and the terms, because they will tell you up front if they're sharing your email. So some of the sports ones, I'll enter on, like, so for example, I'll enter on a hockey one, and they'll say, oh, but we are affiliated with this other team. Sometimes they're in the same stadium. Mm-hmm. We'll share your info. Do you want us to share your info with the NHL team and the NBA team? And then you can say yes or no. Sometimes they'll give you extra entries if you say yes. So I always say yes in that case. Right. Again, back to read the rules.
Right. Which sometimes we can still forget. But so you started writing your books, and now you have Words of Winning, like you said, where your blogs and a lot of stuff are. You already mentioned her name once, but how did your paths cross with the legendary Helene Hadsell, and how has her work influenced you?
Well, I had a podcast before it was cool. In 2008, I had a podcast. I know, I wish I'd kept it up, but life did not go in that direction. And anybody in the sweepstakes community had heard of Helene because she was famous for winning every contest she ever entered. Now, I think she was just being a little bit, that was the sales pitch from the first company that published her book. She really did just win every prize she ever desired, including a fully furnished home. And I invited her to be on this podcast, and off the air, I asked her if I could come visit, and she said no. And she was highly, highly, highly intuitive. And I get a call 3 days later from him, and she said, your spirit guides are so loud, you better come visit. And I thought, well, I'm loud in real life. Of course, my spirit guides are going to be loud. It's just, par for the course. So I went down and spent 4 days with her, and we had so much fun. And in that time, she said to me, you need to teach maneuvers for witchcraft because no one else is going to do it. Like at that point in her life, she didn't see any of her grandchildren taking it over. And then I didn't do anything with it because we all know what happened in 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. The economy just went, and I had everything happen to me. I went through a huge shift in my life. I got a divorce. We went bankrupt. I got a divorce. I had some health issues. Thankfully, nothing serious, but still uphill for me. And finally, just before the pandemic, I thought, I better do something about this. Her son, Dyke, was the only one left because 2 of her children predeceased her, unfortunately. Her eldest daughter, Pamela, and her youngest child, Chris, both passed before she did. And there was only Dyke left, the middle son. And so I got a hold of him and said, hey, I know I sat on this a hot minute, but I'd like to republish your books. And then I said, I better buy the rights because he's 75. So I thought, well, if he passes away and I don't own the rights, then it still dies with him. Like it only went down one generation. It's not available to everybody.
Right.
And if I had started selling them and he owned the rights, then I'd have to stop and that would be the end of it. So he said, yeah, you're right. And so I bought all the rights. And then once the lockdown stopped, I went down and visited and got the remains of her business files. There wasn't a lot left, but enough. Mm-hmm. So for example, some people say, well, how do you know she won a house? And I said, I have the land transfer papers from Formica to Helene and her husband, Pat. It's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah, they're on that old-fashioned vellum papers. And I think there was a rule, like a law, they couldn't actually just give them the house. So they had to sell it to them for $10. Even though it was a sweepstakes, like she did win it. Mm-hmm. But,
right.
The finagling with the law and the transfer of land and all that. I guess they had to pay something. So it was a nominal whopping $10 for this $50,000 furnished home back in the day. And it was in the middle of nowhere.
I'm sure would go for a lot more now, but yeah.
Yeah, it's 10 times that now. But it's in the middle of I went and saw it. I think I'm actually planning on going back. And when I go back, I'd like to contact the people that now own it and see if I can go visit and see. I think that would just be fascinating. But it was originally in the middle of nowhere, and now it's in the middle of everything. That's right. How much the cities have grown around, right? Because they were in Irving, but the houses, right? So Fort Worth and Dallas have just basically merged, and they were in the middle, which was in the country at the time.
It's not country anymore.
No, it's not country anymore. It was extremely busy when I drove by, and I did a quick video, but I didn't have time to stop, and it was a Sunday, so I thought, okay, this time I'm going to pre-write a letter and introduce myself and say, hey, and see if I can't manage a time to do a proper visit, go and see who's there. If they'll even talk to me, I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. I'm putting it out there that they're going to let me in the house. I imagine it's been remodeled since then because it's been a while.
Oh yeah. And Helene's not the only one. Yeah.
So Helene's not
the only one you've met.
So 60 years next year since the house was built. So yeah, it's probably been remodeled.
Oh, I'm sure by then. Yeah. But so Helene's not the only one though. You also met Tag Powell. And
now,
so how did his teachings help shape your journey? I mean, because I think you bought those too, did you not?
Yeah, I apologize for cutting you off there. Now this is interesting, and especially for your audience, I want them to know this. If something happens and you think it's a crisis, it might be a door opening. Because what happened is Amazon contacted me about this book here, The Name It and Claim It Game, and said your copyright page is wrong and you need to fix it or we're going to pull the book. And I panicked, of course. And what I did is first I realized I thought, okay, so I said I own the copyright. They said, we know that, you need to fix the page. It took me a few days to figure it out. The problem was it was the layout that I had. I didn't have it in the right. There's a certain structure it's supposed to be in. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. And so I fixed it because I had just taken it from Helene's format and just moved it over to the new book. That was the smart. So now it's in the proper format. But in the meantime, I was contacting her old publishers to get them to send me letters to say, hey, we don't hold any copyright, just in case I wanted to cover myself legally. And Tag Powell, Top of the Mountain Publishing, published her second edition. And over time, I'm doing research trying to find them. I figured out it was owned by Tag Powell. And I thought, wait a minute. I went back to the box of books I got from Helene's house, and there was an autographed book from Tag to Helene about the Silva method. It turns out that's where he met her because he was a Silva instructor. He learned from Jose. And she worked with Jose Silva. So it's all kind of connecting. And I got a hold of him. So I sent off these letters. I found about 4 different addresses. I sent off letters. One of them found him. He was still alive, but he'd had a stroke and had COPD. And so I sent him a copy of all of Helene's books because I had updated them all at this point. He was amazed. It turned out he was an author in his own right. And so I drove to Florida and bought the rights to 10. He had a lot more books than that, but only ones that would fit what I was doing was 10 of them. And I got 6 audio series that I'm working on this year. And I didn't get to spend much time with him. And unfortunately, the stroke made his brain a little bit Swiss cheesy. So sometimes he could answer questions and sometimes he couldn't. But he loved what I was doing. And I also bought the rights to some of his wife's works. So that's what's going to start being republished this year. I'm so excited. So what started out as a crisis, Amazon not publishing, like going to pull down my book, turned into me finding Tag and then buying the rights to his works and now being able to keep his legacy going and making sure that all his teachings go. And because one of his books was a Silva-based book, I've connected with Silva here, and I'm in the process of becoming a Silva instructor. That was not on my radar because I thought I can't publish a Silva book if I don't understand Silva. I have no plans to teach it. We just did a weekend intensive for the instructor, the 7 of us that are going through instructor training. And I have no intention of teaching it, but I have learned to never say never, because the minute I say never, the universe will go, oh yes, we have an opportunity for you. So I'm open. I don't see myself teaching as a straight up Silva instructor, but I will be using everything I learn as I talk about the books and I teach what's in the books and do that. And then if that opportunity opens up, I might do it. But also I help with the training and I help with the free introductory classes. Isn't that cool? That's how Helene met Jose Silva, is her friend who is a metaphysical butterfly, she called it. Like to check out all this stuff, dragged her, said, come on, let's go meet this guy. He's brand new. He's from Laredo, Texas. Took Helene to see his free introductory class. And then they signed up for the weekend workshop. Those free introductory classes are still going on to this day.
Wow.
And they're online. And so the ones that I'm going to be helping with, I'm actually going to start assisting with some of those. I'm so excited. How
That's
cool.
amazing.
I know. How cool is that? So these are things that when the Helene door opened in 2008, I couldn't even envision. And so many people are so scared of the unknown, but it's all unknown anyway. So why be scared of it? You don't know what's going to happen.
That is
everybody
true.
thinks of the worst. They're always like, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? Guess what? What if this amazing thing happens? What if that amazing thing happens? What if you win this thing? What if you meet that person? What if you go on this adventure? You don't know.
I know, it's amazing how we always kind of default to the negative or the worry instead of thinking, but what if, and changing that around.
Right. Like, oh, what if something happens to the car? Well, what if nothing happens to the car? What if you win a new car?
Win another one.
Right? It doesn't matter.
Carolyn, we only have a few minutes left.
Oh, no.
And I know we could go on forever because you have such amazing stories and you're a wealth of knowledge. What would you like to share with everybody before we leave today?
Just do it. Just do it. Helene, that's what she said. She said, don't worry about being perfect. Just begin. And she's absolutely right. Just begin. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Jack Canfield said, failure is an illusion. If you apply to Harvard and you don't get into Harvard, you weren't going to Harvard before you applied, you're not going to Harvard after you applied, your life didn't change. You didn't fail. So just begin. And you have no idea what adventures await on the other side. So if you're ever having a day where you start worrying, which is basically negative manifesting, flip it and say, what magic and miracles could happen today? That's a little bit of Joe Vitale thrown in there for good measure. What magic and miracles can show up today that I'm not expecting? And just watch what happens every single day.
Yeah. That I like the way you put that too. Like I said, it's positive. It's manifesting, making those affirmations, being open-minded. Because if you weren't open to things, would your journey have even gone there? And your journey is still continuing to evolve. You still don't even know exactly where it's going to take you.
Well, I kind of have been doing some envisioning of what crazy things I would like to see in my life, adventures out there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they'll actually happen, but why not? Go big or go home.
Why not? I look forward to keeping in touch too and seeing, well, for one, learning more about how to do the sweepstakes and stuff, and keeping in touch and seeing where your adventures go next, because I'm sure you have many more coming up.
Oh, there's lots coming up.
There's lots coming up.
I'm sure of it.
I'm sure too. So for anyone watching, if you want to learn more about sweepers or being a sweepstaker or getting in touch with Carolyn, you can get her by thecontestqueen.com, which we had up earlier, or Words for Winning. Connect with her on YouTube, TikTok. I think you're on multiple platforms. You're not hard to find.
No, not hard to find.
But definitely helpful too when you have someone that's already gone through those motions, made the mistakes, and who knows where that might lead. But I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And as always, everybody, be sure to go to the YouTube channel at Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. Like and subscribe, because you'll see not only Carolyn, but a bunch of other fantastic guests we have covering all different areas. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week.